In a world where people are losing their minds, who will be the voice of sanity, of logic, of rationale, of morality and truth? This podcast is looking for like-minded people to stand up to the insane and be real. The Recovery Atheist podcast is calling you to step forward and be counted. Welcome to the voice of change. Welcome to the Recovery Atheist podcast.
Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining me again on another episode of the Recovery Atheist podcast. Tonight, I got a suggestion from a listener that is a pretty loyal fan of the show, and I wanted to be able to do a show for him according to what he thought he would like to hear or have me talk about. So he's in recovery, I'm in recovery. I'm called the Recovery Atheist, so I deal with a lot of recovery topics. And so the one tonight that he suggested is going to be isolation in recovery, and talking about isolation and how that can really be a problem for somebody who is in recovery. And I'll get into that and my thoughts and my feelings about it as this episode goes on. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start it off with a quick little video, a little audio for you. And then we'll go into the episode.
Imagine being confined to a small, dark space for several days with no social interaction whatsoever. Not many people would dare to stand a chance. But have you ever wondered what would be the mental repercussions if you did? If so, let's dive right in. Welcome back to Peak Academy, where we are always seeking more. In today's video, we'll be discussing how isolation affects our mental health and why this topic is important to discuss in the first place. Mental health is probably one of the most avoided topics amongst families, yet it affects every single one of us. With lockdowns surpassing the 3-month mark across most countries, for most, this outbreak has perhaps caused a substantial impact on our mental well-being. When we think of isolation and solitary confinement, we mostly relate it as a means of punishing people. Prisoners who pose a high threat to others, for example, are usually kept in isolated cells where they have little to no interaction with the outside. Similarly, although not imprisoned, we have recently experienced something along the lines of confinement during these times of lockdown. While lockdowns are primarily placed with safety in mind, social isolation naturally carries negative side effects that are harmful to our collective mental health. In fact, interacting with people and socializing is one of our primary human needs. Just like we need food and water, social interaction is one of the key elements that come along with our natural human instincts. In simpler terms, we are, by definition, social creatures. Abraham Maslow, an American psychologist, describes this effect in his 1943 paper titled A Theory of Human Motivation. Within this paper, he outlines the pyramid of human needs, also commonly referred to as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Here, he explains that friendship, intimacy, trust, love, and acceptance is the third basic human need for survival, with air, food, and water being at number 1. Isolation can perhaps be very closely related, psychologically speaking, to being deprived of food and water for several days. Just like our physical health, mental health is incredibly important to look after. As we continue to be isolated for long periods, it becomes more and more crucial to understand the negative side effects isolation carries, starting from the hefty changes that occur with our motivation and overall mood. With light isolation, we can start seeing early signs of demotivation arise as we are more likely to feel depressed and have problems processing information. Our minds begin to play tricks on us as we start to feel hopeless as we go through a very uncomfortable position of uncertainty. As a result, our minds and bodies begin to develop signs of stress and anxiety. This, in turn, can lead to difficulties with decision-making and memory storage as well. Our thinking capabilities slow down significantly as we are no longer stimulating our brain cells like we once did, but that is quite normal to experience with isolation. If you think about it, all of our regular activities have either gotten interrupted, cancelled, or postponed to a later date. Life possibly will never be the same after this crisis is over. Researchers have also found that isolation increases our body's vulnerability to the common cold and respiratory infections, thus significantly increasing our chances of getting sick. Besides, a study conducted by the Department of Psychology at Brigham Young University found that loneliness and social isolation have the same cardiovascular effects as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Sorry, guys. The impacts of social isolation become far worse when we are placed in physically isolating environments. With solitary confinement, for example, prisoners may experience an increase in anxiety and panic attacks, while also experiencing an increased level of paranoia and hallucinations. Experts are also aware that isolation and loneliness can actually shrink the size of the brain, all while increasing the risk of developing dementia by 50% and stroke by 32%. The effects of isolation can become even more pronounced if you experience it in total darkness, causing both physical and psychological side effects. One strong impact of being in complete darkness is that it can severely disrupt our sleep cycle. Without daylight, our 24-hour circadian rhythm becomes severely disrupted, which may lead to us feeling depressed and fatigued. In total darkness, our bodies are no longer able to distinguish the difference between day and night. Complete darkness has also been linked to increasing the risk of cancer, insulin resistance, as well as other physical attributes such as obesity and premature aging. It is clear that social isolation creates both a substantial and long-term effect on our mental health. Although the severity of cases varies from person to person and the type of isolation you experience, the good news is that we can take action to improve our collective mental health. We can help improve it by following general guidelines recommended by health experts. Meditating, exercising, and getting a good night's rest are some of the actions that have been linked to a healthier brain. Exercise alone is one of the best ways to fight depression. Whether it's exercising indoors or going outside for a run, exercise helps release some of those feel-good chemicals that help strengthen our cognitive mental health. Experts recommend sticking to high-intensity workouts that require lots of oxygen from our bodies. This helps promote blood flow to the brain and subsequently helps improve our sleeping routine. Which brings us to our next point, sticking to a strict schedule. Sticking to a strict schedule is perhaps the most important step of all. It will help establish a routine and a daily balance in your life, which will help keep things normal. One of the best ways to maintain a healthy sleep schedule is to try to wake up and go to bed at the same time every day. This will help reset our body's internal clock and help regulate our body's melatonin levels. Besides exercising and breathing in fresh air, sleep is probably the most important element when it comes to improving our collective mental well-being. And last but not least, meditation. Whether it's including yoga or meditation into your daily routine, a moment of mindfulness during the day will train the brain to achieve a mentally clear and emotionally stable state. This mindfulness will help reset your overall goals. Combined with a balanced diet filled with lots of water and nutritious meals, every action you take will partake in regulating the chemical imbalances created by social isolation. However, it's always best to consult with a qualified healthcare professional for a personalized diagnosis, treatment, and answers to all of your questions. Now that you know some of the side effects of having a poor mental health due to isolation, it's important to always keep an eye out to those around you. Don't forget that it is okay to talk about mental health with family and friends, as it surely does affect every one of us. Try to keep in touch with loved ones often, and don't be afraid to lend a hand to someone who is in need. A small gesture of empathy might just make their day a little better and go a long way. May marks the Mental Health Awareness Month, so let us not forget that it is okay to struggle and fight your battle. Just keep pushing on forward. Thanks for watching Peak Academy. Let us know in the comments what has helped you overcome the negative side effects of isolation. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like and check out some of the books we left in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more exciting educational videos every week.
Well, hello everybody out there in Podcast Nation. This is the Recovery Atheist, and I am so excited that you were able to join me tonight. Getting toward the end of February, little by little. We're in mid-February right now, but we're getting along. It's been a very cold month, especially up here where I'm from in Minnesota, and it's been that way all across the United States. And with COVID going on and everything like that going on, the topic we're going to talk about tonight is isolation. Now, I want to give a shout out to the guy who decided to put the suggestion my way, Lucas Shelton. He's out of Indianapolis. He's a good friend of mine that I've gotten to know a little bit. Came and got a hold of me, wanted one of my shirts. If you're interested in one of them, just let me know and we'll see what I can do for you. He wanted one, so I sent one to him, and he's been a very loyal follower of the show. And so, Lucas, thank you again for this suggestion, and definitely I want to do it up and let's talk about it. So with it being cold, with it having the COVID going on and everything, what have we been doing the most of, especially in 2020 and now going into 2021? And that is being in our homes. We go to work, we come straight home. We go to school, we come straight home. Lots of things that we did in the past, we no longer can do because of COVID. So a lot of the stuff that we would do, we're no longer able to do, and we stay at home. So isolation can be a big issue, mentally, physically, for people, and it doesn't even have to be someone who is in recovery to have that be an issue. So I want to talk about it. Isolation, the definition of it is just the state of being in a place or situation that is separate from others. So with this COVID situation, obviously we're trying to keep our social distancing. We're trying to stay within our bubble of people that we know that are not in contact with it. We're doing everything we can to make sure that we are able to, just stay present in wherever we're at. So we don't move around very much, which is okay. I mean, that's what we need to do for our health, and to make sure that we're safe. I get that. But at the same time, staying at home all the time, and I've noticed it with the guys here in the house that I live at, the sober living home that I manage, is that we're getting a lot of cabin fever. We're not able to go out and do things that we normally get to do. Me personally, I cannot wait to be able to get back outside, be able to hit the parks around here, get out in the forest and do some hiking, some mountain biking, and just get out in nature again. I cannot wait for it. So isolation can be a very hurtful thing to people. Now, in Lucas's suggestion, it was more about recovery and how that works that way. Now, my story is when I was an alcoholic, and I still am an alcoholic, but when I was in active using alcoholic, a lot of times I would lock myself up in a hotel room and get a bottle and just lock myself away a few days and isolate and get away from everyone and hide. That was my way of dealing with stress. That was my way of dealing with pain, with disappointment, with despair, and just an overall feeling of not being worth anything. I had no self-esteem, and so a lot of times I would isolate. And I would isolate because, for one, I wouldn't want people to see me in that situation. I wouldn't want to have them see me be this nasty drunk, this hasn't showered in a long time, slobbering all over himself, puke everywhere, talking out of his head, just not a very good look. And so I wouldn't want people to look at me because obviously they're going to judge me in that situation. So I would hide. and I would isolate, and I would get away and deal with it on my own. And obviously that's not good. And there's a lot, it doesn't have to be alcohol. It can be heroin, it can be methamphetamines, it can be whatever you're using. A lot of people will isolate and stay to themselves with it. So it has huge impacts when it comes to that, when you're using and when you're in active addiction. But it's a warning sign. It can be when you're getting sober in recovery and you're starting to learn how to live life sober. And, usually when that happens, you're wanting to start doing things with your life. Start, picking up some hobbies. Like I started this with the podcast. Obviously, for me, it's not a hobby. This is a way of life. I look at it as a job. And it's a job I love. But this is a passion, so it's not necessarily a hobby. But you look for other things to keep you busy, keep you out in the world, keep you moving forward and not isolating and hiding yourself away from everybody. So you need to, in recovery, be able to find certain activities that are going to be able to help you with that. Now, obviously, sober support meetings, things of that nature are good. The problem is, again, with COVID, the meetings are very limited in where you can go and what you can do with those meetings. So a lot of us are having to do the meetings over Zoom. And that, again, gets old, and it just doesn't feel like the same way it does as at a regular sit-in meeting. This last Tuesday, I went to an actual in-person meeting. It was the first one I've done in weeks outside of the one that we do in the house here. And it was wonderful to be able to get outside of the house and go to a meeting and feel like you're actually sitting with a group of people who are in recovery, that you don't know, that they don't know you really that well, and you get to hear other people and how they're doing in recovery. It gives you more hope. It's real hard to do that all the time when you're on Zoom. It just is. So hopefully as time goes on, maybe that'll get better. We'll have more meetings that'll come open. I know once it starts warming up again, they'll start going back to a lot of the outdoor meetings that there was in parks and stuff like that, which was great. But it's just important when you're fresh in recovery to be able to find activities to keep you busy. Okay. If you've got someone who is in recovery and the next thing you know, all they're doing is hiding in their room and you barely see them at all, or they're just, where did they go? That's usually not a good sign. Usually that's a red flag that there's some other stuff going on. Now, I'll use it from my point of view or from my story. At the other sober living home I was at, how do I say it? Just from my personal opinion, this is how I do it. When I was at the house, there's certain people I want to be around that I find that are good for my recovery. And then there's other people that just don't add anything of interest or add anything good to my recovery. And so I still to this day feel like I don't need to spend time around that individual if it is not going to help me in my recovery. And I know some people would say it's selfish, but this is a selfish program. I don't want to put myself around somebody that is not motivated in recovery the way I am in one way or another. I want to be around the winners. Okay, I want to be around the people who are motivated to do this thing. And so there's certain people that I won't be around and will stay away from just because they really add nothing positive to my recovery. That's okay. I mean, you're going to pick and choose who you want to be friends with. You have every right to. Not everybody you're going to be around you're going to like. That's normal. But it's when you come home from work and all you do is go straight to your room and don't do anything, don't talk to anybody in the house, and just stay in your room, go to work, come home, go to work, come home, and just have no connection. That's a problem. And so when I first moved in here in Duluth into the sober living home, I kind of was doing that at first. I was kind of just going to work, coming home, doing my thing in my room, because, well, some of it is because I wanted to be, how do I say it? I wanted to be left alone, because I'm an only child, so I can only handle so much contact with people before it's like I need some time to myself. Also, a lot of it was because, I had a lot of mental health issues going on. I had a lot of anger and frustration and impatience and things like that, to where I didn't want to lash out at people because they might piss me off or annoy me or whatever. So it's just best, instead of me learning how to deal with those issues and get better at dealing with them, I would just hide away from it so I don't even have to react or have to interact with it. So as time is going on, I'm being told through my sponsor, house manager, the house owner, that I'm isolating too much, that I need to get more active with the guys in the house. And, until I was able to do that, a house managing position would probably be not something that would be available to me. But I took it to heart, what was being said, and I started doing it. I started getting outside of myself, started talking with guys in the house, tried to be supportive where I could, still did my personal time when I needed to, which is, a lot of the time, but I still was having relationships with every single one of the guys in the house, even if I didn't necessarily get along with them or liked who they were as a person necessarily. So by doing that and getting outside of myself, it allowed me to have more conversations. It allowed me to start getting to know a couple of the guys in the house where I felt I could go to and be able to talk to about anything if I needed to talk about something. And that was good. And as time went on, when the next house managing position came available, they finally said, because of that, you'd be a good house manager, and now I'm doing it. I have to even be careful with it here at the house. I want to make sure that I'm here for the guys and available to them. But, with the podcasting and with work and everything else that I do. And plus, as a house manager, you don't want to be... It's a very fine line between... You don't want to be best friends either with them, because then... if you got to come down on something and say this is wrong and correct, sometimes feelings can get hurt. So you got to somewhat keep a little bit of a wall, a little bit of a distance between you and the other residents that are in the house. Still have a friendly friendship, a good relationship, but you don't want to be best of best friends either, because then that could complicate things as well. So for me, a lot of times I'll be in my room. If it's at night, then I'll shut my door and, have my time. But if it's during the day and I'm home into the early evening, a lot of times I might be in my room doing some editing of my podcast or some podcast research, watching YouTube or whatever, trying to get my next subject together, and my door will be open so they know that I am there, I am available, and they can come in and bother me anytime, and I'll stop what I'm doing and we'll have a conversation and talk about things. So I guess the biggest thing is, in recovery, you want to leave yourself open to connection. You want to leave yourself open to being able to have relationships and meet new people, learn new things, have an open mind. And there's been a few times where I've had someone where they really they bugged the shit out of me. Okay, couldn't fucking stand them. But as I got to know them over time, I started realizing that there was good things about them, and I started focusing on the good things, on the similarities that person and me had, rather than the differences that way. I mean, because with me, I'm my own person. I have a lot of things that are different than the people that are around me. I have a lot of things and a lot of opinions about what I think is right and wrong, or the way things should be looked at. And it doesn't necessarily, not everybody enjoys it. Okay? And I get that. Not everyone is going to enjoy what I have to say. If they did, life would be boring. If I didn't have haters, then I'm doing something wrong. That's the way I look at it. So you need to be open. You need to get out. You need to connect with other people. You need to be able to have a life. You need to find things that are going to make you happy in your life and is going to push you forward in your recovery. So what happens with it that could cause you to isolate? What can help you not isolate? So the biggest thing to start off with would be mental health. Your mental health is a very important deal. Okay, so I am here soon going to be, at least everything looks like it. They're doing the background check. That should be fine. I'm going to be starting off a mental health practitioner at a facility here in Duluth. So I'm going to be dealing with a lot of mental health individuals that have issues that need to be addressed. Be doing some one-on-one, some treatment planning, things of that nature. It's definitely within my education of what I went to school for and what my degree is in. So I know a lot about mental health. I know a lot about the prescriptions, a lot of the medications that are prescribed for these different mental health diagnoses, obviously through the DSM, the DSM manual, the diagnosis manual that is used. So mental health is very important when it comes to in recovery. Now, I've heard people talk about, well, now that I'm sober, maybe I don't need those medications. I think I'm just going to stop. No. Talk to your doctor first. And then if the doctor says fine, then do what the doctor tells you. Because a lot, like for me, I'm on Celexa, I'm on Trileptal. Celexa is for the antidepressant, anxiety. The Trileptal helps me with my bipolar symptoms and PTSD. And then I'm also on Vivitrol, which is for cravings, for alcohol cravings, a shot I take once a month. So if I know for a fact that if I'm not on my Celexa, taking it daily, and my Trileptal, taking it daily, that I get out of whack mentally. And a lot of times, if you look back at the times where I've relapsed and I've gone out on a drinking bender, a lot of times it's been because I haven't been taking my meds. And I know that. So I consistently, every day, make sure I'm taking my meds. That should be the number one thing I start with. I know we hear people all the time say recovery's number one. Yes, it's very important to me. But my mental health has to be taken care of first. Because the rest of it, the recovery angle part of it, is not going to work unless I am mentally stable. So I have to make sure that I'm taking care of my mental health, which I do with medications, which I do with therapy. Okay? So mental health issues will definitely lead you down the road in recovery to possibly isolating. I mean, depression. You don't want to get out of bed. Bipolar, don't want to get out of bed. Just feel like you don't connect with the world. With me, with my bipolar, I have a thing called dissociation disorder, which if I don't take my Trileptal, I literally feel like I'm disconnected from the world, like I don't exist, like I'm invisible. So if I'm in that situation, then yeah, I'm going to isolate away from everyone like I don't exist. So we need to make sure that we're taking care of our mental health. We need to make sure that the decisions that we're making them with a stable mind. Okay? Very simple there. If you need the mental health help, get it. Don't hesitate. Look into it if you feel like you need that. The next one would be possible triggers. Some people isolate so they don't have to be around possible triggers, which I get. Some people will lock themselves up, maybe because they have a lot of using friends. Oh, it's good tea. Maybe they've got using friends. Maybe they've got family members that they want to avoid because of the drama or because they use. Whatever it is. Some people will isolate just to stay away from those scenarios so they don't have to be tempted by those situations. Again, that's not what recovery is. You can't hide from it. I can't hide from it. I have to get out in the world and go and do my daily life and work and go. And I don't know how many times since I've been in my recovery this last year, which I'm so excited about. In 3 weeks, I'll have a year sober. That I've had to sit at a bus stop that's right next to a liquor store. I mean, there's no way for me to hide from it. It's part of my history. It's always going to be there, and it's like a slap in the face. It's going to be there. There's nothing I can do to stop that. Okay, so isolating me is not going to stop it, because even if I do that, I'm still watching TV and other things like that, and there's ads for booze left and right. Okay, nothing is going to change that. Isolating myself away is not going to change that. In fact, when it comes to it, I need to be able to face those demons that way and say no. And that's what I've been able to do. And every single time that it's happened and me saying no, it has gotten better and better and better for me in my recovery. Okay? Another reason why people isolate: feelings of guilt and shame. Again, this comes back to the low self-esteem. Okay? And again, if you feel that way, I feel for you. I'm there. I've been there. I'm very empathetic, and I have compassion about that, because I've been there many, 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 many times. I have sat in a place of shame, not as much guilt. I mean, yeah, I'm guilty about certain things I've done, but that's the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is you're sorry for what you did. Shame is you're the worst person on the planet. You deserve to die for what you did. Okay? There's a difference. So shame is what I dealt with the most. And so because of that, I didn't want people to see me or look at me because of my shame. Okay, now I was raised in... and again, I talk about my parents a lot, and I just want to say this right now. I love them, and they did the best they could for me, but I was raised in a shame-based home. There's no way to get around that when you've got family members who are very religious, and it's all about sin. You're going to deal with some shame. It's a given. Okay, so I dealt with a lot of shame. I grew up with shame. I still deal with it today. I make mistakes or feel like I could have done something better and I didn't. Even though I did a decent job, it still wasn't good enough because I'm a perfectionist. That's all that shame that I deal with. And so that can drive people to isolate. That can drive people into their rooms, into their homes, to not be around people because of the shame. Some people do it just for the image, so others don't see them struggling or being in pain over being in recovery. Okay, maybe they're struggling. Maybe they're all over the place with their mental health. Maybe they're having major cravings and triggers it's really bothering them and makes them antsy, and they just don't want to have people see them struggling in recovery. And again, that can go back to shame. The next one would be just straight up loneliness, and then you give up. There's a lot of people that are in recovery that talk about it quite a bit, that, I'm just lonely. I'm lonely. And then they get to the point where it's like, it's no use. Nothing's going to change. No one wants to be around me. I'm never going to have relationships that are healthy, blah, blah, blah. I just get burnt or hurt. Again, I'm talking to the choir here. I'm talking to me in the situation. And so I'm just going to be lonely and alone the rest of my life. So why even try? So then they isolate. Now, the problems with isolating, what can it do? The biggest thing for me when I isolate is I get bored and I start getting obsessed in my thoughts. To the point where my boredom, a lot of times, just sitting in a hotel room watching a TV is boring. You add vodka to it, to me, it makes everything exciting. You put vodka in the middle of it, and then it's like, woo, we've got a party here. So to me, my drugs of choice was always to get rid of boredom, to try to make things exciting, I guess. When I first started drinking, it was that way, and as time got toward the end of my use, over this last couple of years, it wasn't fun anymore. There was not anything exciting about it. It was about survival. It was just being able to survive and make it to the next day. By isolating too, you're not allowing yourself to be open to have other people help you in recovery. Okay, like I said, connections are very important. Connections are very important in recovery. Being able to ask for help, being able to keep yourself open to the relationships that could be out there that could add something to your life and to your recovery. I don't shut down relationships anymore, and it doesn't matter where you come from. I've got a friend here in the house. He used to be a Lutheran pastor, and his beliefs on God and everything like that, other than the organized religion, we kind of somewhat believe, agree on certain things. But he believes in God and everything like that. Does that mean because of that I should just eliminate him out of having a relationship with him and having him be a part of my life? No, he brings a lot to the table with the conversations that I have with him and what he brings in my life with having a relationship with him. So again, when we get sober, we're here in recovery to learn how to have healthy relationships, learn how to be around people, learn how to ask for help, learn how to listen, because there could be something being said by somebody else that could be of help to us while we're in recovery, and build those healthy, supportive relationships that we need in our lives. I cannot do this on my own. It's the whole thing. I know people want to sit there, like me as well, and they want to have a big fight about the whole God concept and everything like that in AA. The truth is, at least the way I look at it, is the whole point of trying to believe in something that's greater than yourself is so that you don't believe that yourself is a God. That's it. I do not believe myself to be a God. I cannot control everybody. I cannot make things happen the way I want them to happen. Can I have control over my situation and the decisions I make? Yes. But when it comes to life and the way life goes, there's many things out there in the world that have more control and are of a higher power than I am. So mainly when I look at that, all it's telling me is, Del, get outside of yourself, realize you don't have all the answers, and be able to ask other people for help. There could be somebody else out there that has something that they can offer to help you in that situation, and you have to be open to it. That's all it is to me. And when you isolate, you shut that door. You shut that door. You no longer are open to having those types of relationships anymore. Me by myself is not a good situation. I'm not good in life just being by myself. And I'm starting to realize that now about myself. And that's good. It's causing me to have a healthy recovery now. It's allowing me to be able to see things that need to change and get better, and it's allowing me to have long-term sobriety now because of those decisions. So, today, I just want to challenge everybody out there to think about how you're living your life in recovery when you go out there. Are you being active the best way you can? Are you open to new things, new hobbies, new relationships and connections? Are you open to listening to maybe somebody else's opinion or maybe advice on something that you're struggling with? Or do you have all the answers? Do you feel like you need other people in your life? Because if you don't, I'm going to challenge you to look at that. I'm going to challenge you to change that. It really concerns me when someone says all they need is themselves. It says in the big book, self-centered. It's all about us. That's the root of our problem. All about being all selfish about who we are and self-centered about us. Yeah. We need to be able to get outside of ourselves and realize that the universe does not revolve around us. And that's what happens for me personally. My personal testimony is on it that when I get outside of myself and I start helping people and I start doing what I'm supposed to do with that and having good connections and everything like that, that my recovery works a lot better. I learn a lot more, and I'm overall happier. So today I challenge you, even though I know it's hard with the cold weather and with COVID and everything like that, but I challenge you to get out there, make connections, find new things to do that makes you happy. Maybe there's something out there that you've always wanted to do and you've never been able to do it. Now's the time. What's stopping you? Go out and enjoy life. Recovery is not about being depressed. It's about living life and having fun with it. I want to thank everybody again for listening to my episode tonight. Again, I want to give a shout out to Lucas Shelton for helping me out with this topic. You know, I love you, buddy. Hope everyone out there is staying warm and safe. And, you know, you could always find me wherever you want to find me. I'm at the Recovery Atheist at gmail.com. I'm on Facebook under Del Bacon. I have the Recovery Atheist group page through that. You can find me on YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel called the Recovery Atheist. And then you can find me on many different platforms. We're talking Spotify, Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio, Pandora. I'm everywhere to where you can take me on the go when you're on the go. So definitely, I would love for you to be able to do it. Also with YouTube, I'm kind of on a subscriber kick right now. If you do go on there and you see my videos and you like it, please subscribe. The more subscriptions I get, the more I'll be able to do other things, maybe have some private content for my subscribers, things of that nature. So I'm just trying to build it up slowly and gradually. I don't want to pay for subscribers. I want to do it one at a time because they enjoyed the content that I bring. So if you like the content that I have, please support me by just subscribing. And we'll go from there, and we'll continue to do this and go down this road of recovery together. All right? I love everybody. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Recovery Atheist podcast. It's now up to you. What will you do with what you've heard? How will you use it? I challenge you not to stay silent. Be heard. Be real. Be different.